So I just wanted to read this with you guys and touch on this real quick. Right? So it says women are biologically incapable of truly loving men. It is just how women evolved, which to an extent is true, and I see what they're saying, but let's keep going. Men evolved to be a loyal provider to the mother of his children because that gave his offspring maximum chance of survival. Women evolved to be disloyal and always on the lookout for a better provider because that gave her offspring maximum chance of survival. Same goal, different strategies. Nature doesn't care about justice. Because they evolve differently, women do not love men the same way men love women. Or women do not love men the same way men love women. This is why women get over a long-term relationship breakup so much easier than men because they were never that deeply psychologically invested in the first place. Right, so let's go back to the top. His starting statement, women are biologically incapable of truly loving men. Right, this is true. They have to learn that women never come, ready, and with the wherewithal, ready or incapable, of truly loving men. They have to learn this. The only reason, for the most part, this is why the Most High gives the women the maternal DNA, because they're only able to look out for themselves. So what his first sentence says, it is just how women evolved, which, you can make a point, but this is just how women were created, to look out for themselves. Once again, this is why the Most High gave the women the maternal DNA. It's not until that the woman has child that she's able to look at things from a different perspective outside of just her own shoes, because the unconditional love that she's supposed to be getting from her man, that man has for her and that he has for the Most High, she's able to reciprocate that and give it down to the children, right? And it encompasses the children, the love that she was passed down to the father. She gives that love to the children, so the children have that same love for both parents. You're supposed to honor thy mother and thy father, right? So the mother is the head of the children, right? The man is the head of the woman, and the Most High is the head of the man. You understand? So even if you disagree, you can disagree all you want. I really don't give a fuck. You can go somewhere else with that. All right. But this is just the way that, the Most High has it set up. And it's set up like this for a reason, so it can be order and structure. This is why when you look all over the nations, over the planet, for the most part, they hold women to a totally different standard. Because if you don't hold women to a certain standard or any accountability, they're just able to roam free and cause chaos. Right? Whether you want to like it or not, you can disagree. I really don't care. But this is why, for the most part, and this is why the importance of the father figure is so relevant as well. Because when you don't have a father to provide over his children, you get a lot of women who end up becoming overweight. You get a lot of women, who end up not getting the actual love that they were supposed to receive, the actual unconditional love that you're supposed to receive from thy father, and you're not actually being monitored like you should be from your father. So there's a lot of bad decisions that ends up being made as well. So that puts yourself through unwarranted trauma, and then that's left up for, the rest of the people to, to deal with. So anyway, going on. Men evolved to be a loyal provider to the mother of his children because that gave his offspring maximum chance of survival, which is true, and is just embedded in a man. And this is what attracts the woman in the first place, because a man being a man, standing on what it is that he adheres to, and going after what it is that he wants to go after to fulfill his vision. At the end of the day, the woman is supposed to come help you and make that better. She's supposed to make your road easier by supporting you and making sure she's on your side. You understand? This is why woman. That's why they give the woman the name woman, which means a help to the man. Whoa, man. So, once again, it doesn't matter if you agree. So, but once again, it says that it also gave the offspring maximum chance of survival, which is true. That's also true. But it goes on to say women evolved to be disloyal and always on the lookout for a better provider, which for the which wasn't a way for them to evolve. They already came this way. They became this way. Look at the story of Adam and Eve. Whether you adhere to it or not, or whether you understand what happened, she was made from Adam's rib. She was made for Adam, but she ended up and went and slept with the fucking serpent. So what are you talking about? It's not that she was evolved this way. She was made and created this way, and they don't have accountability or nor culpability. So this is why when Adam blamed it on the woman blamed it on the snake. She didn't take accountability at all for her actions. This is how the Most High knew that they end up having sex in the most part, or for the most part, or the Archangel Michael, according to certain texts. But anyway, the Most High came into the garden and he had to smell something in the air because he didn't tell them about sex. So how would he know that they were hiding? You know, what alerted him to know that they were hiding? Because not that he just couldn't see them. You know what I'm saying? And he already knew, of course, but there had to be something that indicated that. You feel me? The sex was probably in the air, you know, bitches be having. Anyway, so, and in quotations it says, because that gave her offspring maximum chance of survival. That's not necessarily true. All right, it is, but, you know, the woman is a survivor by nature. So she's going to do what's best for her and the children, not necessarily just the children. But this is, you know, this is true for them to an extent. Same goal, different strategies. Same goal, different strategies. Nature doesn't care about justice, and it really doesn't. All right, it really doesn't. This is why we tell you guys to make sure that you focus on yourself. You know, to make sure that you acquire something of value, like a trade or something like that. That way, you won't have to spend your entire life working for someone else. You won't have a higher up or a boss working over you. You know, but anyway, you can also become a productive member in society no matter where you go, especially if you learn another language. You can leave America and go live anywhere else on the fucking planet, and go work construction, or go work as a plumber, or go work during cement masonry, or go work during plumbing. You know, it's multiple things that you can do. But because they evolve differently, women do not love men the same way men love women. This is not necessarily true. It's not that they evolved this way. Women were created and made this way. Once again, this is why the Most High gives the woman the maternal DNA. All right, they don't love men the same, you know, the way men love women. This is true, but this is not until the man gives the woman something to live for, which is children and a vision, right? You're not going to be able to capsulate the woman or get the woman to move you and to move differently for you, right? And motivated to move for you, right? And to work towards your vision if you haven't grasped the mind or the soul of the woman. You know, if you just know who she is sexually, you know, that's not necessarily going to do much for you. You have to be able to take the mind and the soul of the woman as well. You know, because if you get the mind and the soul of the woman, she's going to give you the body naturally. That's going to come along with it. A lot of you niggas are moving backwards. So anyways, it goes on to say, this is why women get over a long-term relationship breakup so much easier than men, because they were never deeply psychologically invested in the first place. Agreed. Which is why I just said what I just said in the first place. You know, they get over these long-term, these year-long, 3, 4, 5 years, 6, 7, 15 years, 20 years, you know what I mean, out of relationships and easily move on. Because once again, they were never psychologically invested. You have to take the mind and the soul of the woman. Her mind and soul has to be invested in you and what you have going in your vision, because that's what's moving you and that's what's going to attract the woman in the first place. You know, this is not me trying to coach you brothers up, but a lot of times when you move a certain way, when you have a certain energy to you, when you meet a woman and she knows that you are moving by a higher purpose, that's going to attract them in the first place. Because like Patrice O'Neal says, the woman for the most part on the basis ground level, she has to think and she has to know that you're better than her. That's why she's attracted to you. This is oftentimes when niggas start to Gucci goo and start blowing bubbles on a bitch stomach and you know, rubbing noses with a bitch. You know what I mean? She's eventually going to get tired of you, you know, because you're not, they like to bitch you up. You know, this was not a lot of the times you niggas. That's why when you start to do these things, they incrementally lose respect for you, start withholding pussy and start disrespecting you and, you know, degrading you, things of this nature. You know, because once again, they were never psychologically invested in the first place or spiritually invested. They were just monetarily invested by what you can provide in the now or maybe even in the future. But they realize that they can come up off of that. A lot of the times you brothers have women because you move a certain way, because you embrace who you are. And then you get to know the women. You start to change. You get to know this woman or said women. And you start to change yourself and change a little bit of who you are and mold yourself to think that you should change yourself to her liking, toward her or their liking, when that's not the case. And once they do that, that's when they start to, they bit you up and they got you. And they start to incrementally lose respect for you. You ever, you start to get really, really emotional and pity-patty. And especially if you get far emotional, that's going to turn the woman off because she sees that in herself. You have to give the woman levels to your logic. You understand? As Patrice O'Neal would say, because you can't be moved by your emotions. Your emotion is only 1 to 2 dimensional at the highest. 2 dimensional at the highest. Because it's only based off feelings, so it's going to change. You understand? So, once again, don't mean to make this long-winded or anything, but, a lot of you brothers don't have, once again, the big brother or the quote-unquote father or the, older grandpa or the, big cousin or anything that can, provide you guys this game that you're supposed to learn from men, this game amongst men. So, anyway, that's all we got for here. Y'all be safe. I'm out. Peace.